Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here and a great honor to receive this award. But before I go any further, I have to say a few words about the incredible people who came before me to speak tonight. Thank you to my friend, Congresswoman Kay Granger, for the very kind introduction. It's always great to see my friend, Senator Marco Rubio, and our comical senator across the country, but from my home state, Lindsey Graham. It's always great to see you. I have the great honor of serving alongside Defense Secretary Jim Mattis. I have to say, other than my husband, Secretary Mattis is the coolest guy I know. And to Jimmy McCain, you should know, where are you? There you are. You should know that your dad is in our hearts tonight. John McCain has shown multiple generations of Americans what it means to be a true patriot, and all of us are in his debt. I was listening tonight, and everybody had a John McCain story, and I found myself feeling a little bit jealous. I haven't been able to spend the time with your dad like I would like to spend. But I can tell you we did campaign together one time for Romney, and he kept me laughing the entire day. But I do have to say this. Many of you know I am the proud wife of a combat veteran that has served. And I am blessed because tonight, my favorite older brother, but also a combat veteran that fought in that first Desert Storm War where we watched TV and saw things going. My brother is here tonight. But what I know through my brother and what I know through my husband was every time they were deployed, when it was my brother, we waited by the phone hoping he would call. We didn't have email. We saw on TV the shots going and the fear of a younger sister knowing her brother was out there. And the same when Michael went to Afghanistan, that fear of knowing that you really don't know how tough it can be. But John McCain is what all of us as military spouses and family members look to that reminds us the courage of a true American soldier. He is not only a patriot, his courage, his service, but his ability to forever be America's hero is what keeps so many military families going. Because if he could do that, it shows you the heart of what a true American military service person is. And I will forever see your dad as the greater than greatest American hero that we have. And please give him my love, tell him thank you, and I can't wait to see him soon. About 5 months after I became ambassador to the United Nations, I went to Israel for my first trip. One of the many highlights of the trip was visiting Israel's Holocaust Museum, Yad Vashem. I had the honor of laying a wreath out at the memorial, and I chose for the inscription on the wreath a quote from Elie Wiesel and his Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech in 1986. The quote was, "We must always take sides." He was talking about the need to stand up to evil and oppression. It occurs to me that this is exactly what IRI has been doing for 35 years, taking a side. IRI doesn't choose candidates, it doesn't choose parties. It does something more important. It chooses the side of freedom. For those who might think that this is unremarkable, let me tell you what I do for a living these days. When you come to the UN from a country like the United States, you see very quickly what the fundamental challenge is. We are faced with trying to work with many countries that do not share our values. I am accountable to the American people, but the representatives of the unfree, undemocratic countries at the UN are accountable to no one, only to power and the whims of the dictators who employ them. That is a real challenge. It leads to situations like the one the Security Council finds itself in with Syria. There is broad international support for helping the Syrian people who are being starved, slaughtered, and besieged by the Assad regime. on 12 different occasions, the Security Council had more than enough votes to condemn and sanction the Assad regime for its multiple offenses against the Syrian people. These offenses included its repeated use of chemical weapons and its restrictions on allowing humanitarian aid to reach starving families. Russia has voted every single time, vetoed every single time, every one of those resolutions. As a result, the UN's policy on Syria is largely dictated by a government that is comfortable protecting a mass murderer. And that's the foundational dilemma of the United Nations. It is set up to treat all countries the same, but all countries are not fundamentally the same. When you try to pretend that there's no difference between the good guys and the bad guys, that's always a win for the bad guys. Or as Elie Wiesel said, neutrality always helps the oppressor, never the victim. This is the fundamental truth that informs the work of IRI. You understand that there is a difference between freedom and tyranny, between being a citizen and a subject. Our commitment to freedom and human dignity has made the United States the most generous and powerful nation on earth. And these values are our most powerful foreign policy tools. At the UN, we have tried to be a strong voice, assert American leadership on behalf of these values. That doesn't always make me the most popular person there. On some of our most principled stands, we are vastly outnumbered at the UN, like when we speak out against the Castro regime's horrendous treatment of the Cuban people. Sometimes it would just be easier to not rock the boat. When the crowd is all going one way, it can be hard to be the only one going in the other direction. But in America, we don't celebrate the mob. We celebrate the person who has the courage and conviction to stand up to the mob. That's why I was very proud of the president last week for the stand he took on behalf of American values when he withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal. The Iran deal is fundamentally flawed, and its most fundamental flaw is that it fails to take seriously the nature of the Iranian regime. The Tehran regime bankrolls, supplies, and instigates much of the conflicts in the Middle East, and its behavior has gotten worse, not better, since the nuclear agreement was signed. The easy way forward would have been to stay in the agreement, not rock the boat. The popular thing to do would have been to continue to engage in the dangerous self-deception at the heart of the deal. The president chose a different way. It's harder, but it's ultimately smarter and more accountable to the American people. The responsible way forward begins with being honest with ourselves about the nature of the Iranian threat. Our policy can't be based on wishful thinking or the desire to go along with the bad agreement just to have an agreement. We must address the totality of the Iranian threat. The nuclear threat, yes, but also their support of terrorism, their development of ballistic missiles, and their reign of terror in the Middle East. And perhaps most importantly, our policy has to speak to the Iranian people's desire for a better future. It has to tell them that we're with them, that we will not look the other way while their government steals from their children in order to finance terrorism abroad. Some argue that the United States leaving the Iran deal sends the wrong message to North Korea. Notice that the people who make that argument all think the Iran deal was something to be proud of. In fact, the argument has it exactly wrong. By showing that we're willing to walk away from a bad deal with Iran, we sent the best possible message going into discussions with North Korea. The message is that we will not accept a bad agreement just so that we can declare a hollow victory that fails to enhance our security. I have every confidence that President Trump sees his upcoming talks with North Koreans that way. We want a good deal, but we recognize that no deal is better than a bad deal. And when we send a message of hope and solidarity to the people of Iran, we are also sending an important message to the people of North Korea. We are telling them that a better life is possible. As IRI reminds us, our policies should never fail to send a message of hope to the people all over the world who are suffering from tyranny. My great predecessor at the United Nations and a great friend of IRI, Jean Kirkpatrick, understood this better than most. She was strong and often a lonely voice for American values at the United Nations. So it goes without saying that she wasn't the most popular ambassador in the Security Council. But after she left government, when the spirit of reform took hold in the former Soviet Union, she saw the results of her work. At a reception in Moscow, Ambassador Kirkpatrick was approached by the great Soviet dissident, Andrei Sakharov. He grabbed her hands with great passion, told her that her message had penetrated deep into the Soviet political prison system. He told her, quote, "Your name is known in every cell of the Gulag." I never knew Jean Kirkpatrick, but I'm proud to carry on her mission at the United Nations. Some of our opponents have changed, some have stayed the same, but the power of the American example endures. I thank IRI for your work in promoting freedom and democracy around the globe. You spread the message to the world that America is a great nation, not because of who we are, but because of what we believe. The proof is in those people suffering in prisons in Cuba, starving in Venezuela, or hiding in basements in Eastern Ghouta. America carries the hope of freedom that is in their hearts, and it is that hope that sustains them. That the daughter of Indian immigrants now has the privilege to give voice to that hope at the United Nations is a testament to its power. I will never stop being inspired by the example of America, and like you, I will never stop being that loud and proud messenger to the world. Thank you very much.